Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Quiet Life Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about drop shipping, launching a business with very little cash, using influencer marketing, and then flipping it to a branded model where you've got your own brand and line of products. It's a very interesting conversation with a guy named Alex Fedotoff. Lots of tidbits and nuggets on how to find influencers, connect with them, make sure that you're not paying them a whole bunch of money up front. Actually gives out some links and URLs to affiliate programs like, well, I'll tell you right now, buzzbassador.com, where the influencers can get paid a percentage of revenue. Really innovative, creative ways to launch a business and get it cranking up without spending a whole lot of money up front. And eventually building a business that you can convert to your own private label brand and sell for high value. Before we jump to the podcast, I do want to give a little commercial break here to the Exitpreneurs Playbook. We've done very well over the last 12 months promoting the book and marketing it. My goal for the next 12 months is to give away 10,000 digital copies of the book. So I want you to go to exitpreneur.io/QL pod. That's QL pod, like the Quiet Life Podcast. There you can you sign up and you get a free digital version of the book. If you do it on your mobile device, you can download it onto your iPad, you can read it on a Kindle, your Nook, your iBook, whatever it might be. So it's essentially a free digital or Kindle version of the book itself. If you are buying a business, it's a must read. Look, I know I wrote it and I'm being a little self-promotion type here, but it's the playbook that the buyers use to build, that the sellers use to build and exit their business. Why in the world wouldn't you want to have it as a buyer? As a seller, it's going to help you avoid the ignorance discount that too many people get when they're buying a business directly from a seller on their own, and there's not an advisor in the middle. It's going to help you understand the value of what you have. It's going to help you get the most value for what is likely your most valuable asset, which is your business. And we're coming up against some potential economic tough times here where multiples may come down. You want to make sure you're getting every dollar you can for your business. So go to exitpreneur.io/QL pod and get your free digital copy of the Exitpreneurs Playbook. Okay, here we go. On to the podcast. Alex, welcome to the Quiet Life Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background and what you do.
Sure. So I'm originally from Ukraine. We moved to the United States like 2 years ago. I started in the online space kind of like by accident, because I was working like labor jobs and I didn't want to kind of like do that for the rest of my life. And I decided to be like a freelancer back in Ukraine. And the only problem was that I didn't speak English and I didn't have any skills. So I had to figure that stuff out. It took me like probably like 1.5 to 2 years until I started to get some traction. And some of my first clients in that freelancing world were like e-commerce businesses. So I guess that kind of determined my future path. And one of the clients was actually a dropshipping business. And I just figured out that model, that it was so easy, kind of like on surface, because you don't have to own the product. You don't have to kind of like have the inventory. You can just sell it and then fulfill the product from your actual like revenue, from your actual profit. So that's how I got hooked on that dropshipping model.
Oh, there's so much we could talk about, in particular the Ukraine war and what's going over there. I hope your family and your friends back home are safe. Yeah. And I'm glad that you're here in the States. I did hear, I'm going to say this out loud, folks. I did read something this morning, a headline that Biden, when he was at a Asian summit, he said, if China attacked Taiwan, that America would defend Taiwan. And my immediate thought was, why the hell aren't we doing that in Ukraine? It's just, I mean, they both got nuclear weapons. I don't know what the issue is, but I don't want to go to war, bottom line, but I'm disappointed that our president would say we'd protect Taiwan, but not help defend. And this is with military action and military defense Ukraine as well. But we won't do that podcast today, Alex. We'll do it another day. I'm just happy and glad that your family and friends are safe. All right. So on to drop shipping as a model to get into e-commerce and then eventually flip that particular dropship product to a private label brand. One of the complaints people always have, or that I hear, is that the margins in drop shipping are not great. Can you address that and tell us about it? What you see as far as margins?
100%. I think from my perspective, I think the issue is I think there are different type of like drop shipping kind of like products. So for instance, there are even companies in the United States like the Wayfair, big business, $1 billion business. It's big part of it is drop shipping. So they don't actually own the inventory, but once they get the order, then they fulfill that order from one of their suppliers.
Good point. Good point.
We are kind of like our specialty always has been drop shipping from China, which means, let's say we advertise in the United States. Once we get an order, we have a warehouse in China, we have suppliers in China, and we can actually fulfill product directly from there to the customer's place.
All right. So jumping right into that, I mean, I would guess that it's got to be a very light product, so it could be shipped by air. Number
100%.
one. 100%. Okay. So you can, let's talk about finding products that you can drop ship from China first. How do you do it? What can you recommend? Where should the audience go if they want to go searching for products to drop ship? And what kind of products sell best in a drop shipping model?
100%. So from my experience, it's definitely light products, and it has to be something that is ideally, that's something that's problem solving, like some gadgets, for, I don't know, even for gardening. Like, there's some products for gardening to improve your, I don't know, maybe some lights for your yard, for your house, some gadgets for home, something that is kind of like solving a specific problem, like gadgets for kitchen, maybe to cut like potatoes more efficiently, or to like organizer, like small organizers, plastic organizers, stuff like that does very well. Usually we don't kind of like, we don't try to like reinvent the wheel. We just go and spy. We just spy on what's working because we don't want to be pioneers. Pioneers usually have arrows in their back.
How do you determine what's working?
Yeah. So
this is not, we're not talking about selling these on Amazon like so many people. We're talking about influencer marketing is one of the next steps you're going to take and talk about here in a few minutes, and marketing these products on your own website. So how do you spy on the competition or find those products and see if they're selling elsewhere if you can't use tools like Jungle Scout and Helium 10?
So there are tools like AdSpy, for instance, where you can see what actual products are being like sold through Facebook.
Is that AdSpy? AdSpy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. AdSpy. There's another tool called Mynea. So Mynea. Mynea. So Mynea allows you to actually see what's being advertised on TikTok, what's being advertised on Instagram, what's being advertised on Facebook, and also the influencer marketing. So what influencers are promoting what type of products. So then you can kind of like learn what's in actual demand, what's selling, and you can go after those particular categories.
So Mynea would be the first step, essentially. If I'm going to go ahead and say, look, the reality is I don't have a whole lot of money to start, or I don't want to risk a whole lot. I've tried before and failed, and my spouse won't let me spend a whole lot of money on launching a new product. So I'm going to go to Mynea, Mynea.com.
Let me see the proper domain for that. I believe so. I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then with that, you can find the influencers and what they're pitching on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. And essentially, okay, I like that product. It seems to be doing well. There's lots of interest in it. And then go ahead and try to source it over in China.
100%. Yeah.
All right. And, so how do you source it?
Yeah. So for sourcing it, actually, for example, one of our brands that we have acquired, it's an apparel brand, and it's actually started like about like almost like 2 years ago. And it started from this actual drop shipping model. And the previous owner who started this brand, he was drop shipping these products directly initially from AliExpress. AliExpress is a big platform where you can find a lot of products, but the problem with AliExpress usually is that shipping times are horrible. Like they're like 30 days, 40 days. So the product will get delivered and the products, usually are okay quality, but the shipping times are just that bad. So, but that's kind of like a good like starting point if you want to do that. And also sometimes on AliExpress, you have other options. So if you want a faster shipping, it will just cost you like a few dollars more to have the product delivered like faster. But then, it will get delivered.
Yeah. So how long is the typical shipping time? I'm sure that came up in people's minds the moment we said, yeah, you're going to ship from China. You're going to drop ship from China.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? 10 days, 2 weeks, 7 years?
10 days, 10 to 12 days usually is what we're getting.
Okay. And do you in the checkout on your websites, do you say how long the shipping time is?
Yep. That is absolutely necessary to just like you cannot like lie to people or like because they'll be frustrated. They'll be like pissed,
Yeah, you'll probably get more customer service problems if you're not upfront that it's going to take 7 to 10 days. I get frustrated personally when I go to order something, it doesn't show up in the afternoon because I've got an Amazon fulfillment center about 30 minutes from where I live.
Oh, wow.
So that's another thing. I hate like when I buy a gift for somebody else that lives in a more remote location. I'm expecting, okay, I can wait to the last minute to buy it, but then it takes a week to get there because they don't have a fulfillment center close by. So anyway, all right. So 10 to 12 days is the answer in terms of shipping time.
That's with suppliers, right? And I can provide, if anyone is interested in actual like suppliers that we use in China, to listeners of your podcast, like I can share the people that they can specifically reach out and source products.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's add it to the show link so everybody can access all of the suppliers that you work with.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Hey, and just as a point of reference here, I did bring up mynea.com. It's actually, I typed in minea.com and it came up, but then the URL shows en.minea. But the message, it says, folks, the message it says, folks, it says Mynea analyzes all online advertising to help you find the best products to launch and the best creatives in your niche in just a few clicks. And then from that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to supply suppliers for people to look at to find those products. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah. Okay. So once you have, once you kind of like figure out, okay, so this is a product I want to sell. Usually there is a little bit more to that. Kind of like we want to figure out like why, so there are like two stages. The way I like to see it is like, because every market is competitive, right? And depending kind of like what you want to do with this business, do you want to just like sell and have it at arbitrage to make some money, or do you want to build like an actual brand out of it? So if you want to build like an actual brand out of it, then you might just kind of like analyze farther like that niche and that that product that you want to sell and why you want to sell it. Kind of like what is the angle, right? Like so, like what is unique that you can make about that product? Maybe that's a story that you can attach to it. Maybe that's maybe you'll give some portion of your proceeds of your revenue to the charities. Maybe you will. Maybe that's the product for a specific demographic. Like for example, if you're selling like a gadget for beauty and you want to say this is specifically for Afro-American women, or this is for males, or this is for females. Kind of like create the messaging that would help you to create like a niche, because that would help you with when we get to into influencer outreach. That message has very big impact on the response rates, because let's say if you're I'll give you an example. There's this product that we've been selling, shoes. And we've been selling these shoes kind of like, oh, this is the most comfortable shoes. So obviously we ship them from China. But then after some time, we have realized that, these products were mostly used by older ladies because they have pain in their feet. So now that creates like a very good message that we can use for the outreach, because that specifically resonates with that segment of the audience. Hey, we're selling this product that helps, women over 45 or 50 to overcome pain in their feet and tackle like neuropathy or, other like health conditions. So I think there's you don't have to kind of like overthink it, but at the same time, you just want to think about it like, how can you carve yourself like a niche from the products that you want to sell?
Yeah. So let's go to, I always talk about grilling aprons because I sold Hudson Durable Goods once upon a time. Greatest grilling aprons on earth. They expanded to barbershop aprons and things of that nature. But so if you mentioned outdoor gardening, so if there's a great product or that you've found through Minea that is in the outdoor gardening space and influencers are using it and promoting it, then you would think, I would assume, Alex, that when you find the supplier for that one particular product, that they have a whole line of outdoor gardening products and that you can build a brand of, Alex's tool shed or gardening shed or whatever it might be and build a brand out of it. But let me ask you a question because I'm a little confused. Drop shipping to me typically means that I'm just going to sell that supplier's brand under their brand name. And private label means that not much different. I'm going to sell that supplier's product, but with my branding on it. Where do you start when you're drop shipping? Are you putting your brand name on it right away when you're shipping from China, or are you just going with whatever name is on it?
That depends on the stage of the business that you're in.
Let's assume that I want to build a brand.
How much money do you have?
Okay. So let's talk about that. Yeah. What's the difference going to be if I'm just going to ship their product or ship their product with my brand name on it? What's the cost difference going to be?
The only difference is, so if you want a private label, there's usually like MOQ, minimum order quantity, that you have to like pre-order.
Well, so I can't do private label and have them ship one off from China directly to the customer.
Oh, they will ship, but they'll ship with their kind of like packaging. Right. So if you want to create like a custom packaging, that just has to be like, let's say you want to slap your logo on the product. That just has to be like a minimum order quantity. So they'll have you order like 100, 200, 500, 1,000, depending on the supplier, depending on the factory, depending on the product.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference. So let's
assume that Bootstrap, I don't have a whole lot of dough, and then I'm just going to sell their product initially. Does that actually work? That I'm just going to sell their product with their brand name on it, and the influencers would talk about it and promote it? And
100%.
Okay. So at what point? Well, let's talk about that first. How much money would you say your average client needs to come up with in order to start that process and not have to go and get more money inside of 10 days?
$2,000 to $5,000 usually.
$2,000 to $5,000 to do drop shipping. And that money goes into what? Building the website, hiring influencers. I mean, where does it go to?
Website you can build by yourself. There's like YouTube tutorials that you can use to build a website by yourself. If you're not very technical, like let's say $150, $200, you can build a basic website. Shopify. Usually, we use like teams called like Debut, so it's like free teams, so you don't have to pay for it. It's on Shopify, so that part of the process is free. You need some apps, maybe another like $100 to $200 per month for like email marketing. A lot of them are free to start with. A lot of them have free trials, so that part is not expensive. Then in terms of the actual kind of like how I would allocate that budget, knowing what I know now, obviously that changed over time, but I would allocate probably so let's say I want to sell the product. We've done some research, went on Amazon, people buying the product, people have that particular problem that we can help them solve. We know how to communicate that problem. We have some differentiating point. Either it's a price, but I don't like to compete on price. Well, maybe that's like the messaging, the story. So some differentiating point that we can use to get kind of like get a sale. So I would dedicate probably like $2,000 on actual like branding. So you can do that probably for like much less, but
what is branding? Let me just say it. What is branding? What money are you actually, who are you actually spending money on in terms of branding?
100%. So what I would do is I would do like a custom packaging. So what you want to do is like when people come to your website, ideally you ask the question whether you can get away with like selling exactly the same product with like standard kind of like packaging standards, kind of like that it looks
right,
exactly
right,
like
because we're going
else.
with a dropship model first. We're not private labeling, so
yeah.
But you just said custom packaging. Is that?
So that's the ideal case scenario, right? Like, so if we have, let's say, $5,000, then I assume you would have I would assume you have like sufficient budget to actually kind of like facilitate that. What I would do is I would do like let's say maybe like 100 items. So if you want to go for like influencers, then we have to send them the right type of product, because if we send influencers the type of product that is like in a very like standard like packaging, like with Chinese leathers on them, then they might not like to promote the product.
Okay.
It just like doesn't look good. They don't want to be associated with those kind of products. Okay. Sometimes they do.
So the pure drop shipping from the supplier's manufacturer to the customer in their packaging, it doesn't work with influencer marketing.
So that depends on product, because some products they have kind of like better packaging by default, and some products simply don't have like good kind of like packaging. So okay. That would depend on the product category that you're going after.
Okay. So if you're going to go ahead and eventually move to private labeling, and you want to dedicate, let's say you said 2,000 to 5,000. Let's say 5,000 is you're going to go private label brand eventually. You want to spend a couple thousand of that 5 on packaging, so that when you send the product out to influencers, they're going to be impressed with what they get.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to influencers. Well, no, I actually have another question about pricing. Margins. I said early on that the general stigma with drop shipping is that the margins are not real strong. I love the model because you don't have to have a whole lot of dough and you're not risking a lot of working capital up front. But what is the best, or not? I know that there's no single answer for this. What do you see for a typical price range for the product, retail price range for your clients' products? And what kind of margins do they have? Meaning, if it costs them $5, are they selling it for 25? Are they selling it for 15? Are they selling it for 50? What are we talking about here?
Usually what we are aiming for is at least like 3x. So the product like cost with shipping cost us, let's say $10. We want to be selling it for at least like $30 or more.
So is there no paid advertising the influencers are getting? What are the influencers getting? Just a product to talk about, or and they're not getting paid? They're micro influencers at this point.
Yeah. And so kind of like the power of your message sometimes would so influencers do things for like, from that, at least from my observation, like 2 main reasons, right? Like, so they either want to get paid, they want to make money, or they want to be associated with a good product, with something cool that is like trendy. So if you don't have a lot of money, probably you don't want to kind of like compete on price with like bigger brands that like sponsoring these influencers and paying them like thousands of dollars without like seeing even direct return. So what I want to do is, that's why the messaging is so crucial, because kind of like a lot of the things you can get away with if you have a good messaging. Like, for instance, give you an example, with our brand, with apparel brand, our messaging, because my wife is a mom, and so she said it's a mom founded brand for moms. So we have a lot of resonation with influencers that are actually moms, and some of them have like, let's say, 500,000 followers on YouTube.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and like subscribers.
And when they get to that point, they're still okay with promoting it for free product. They're not asking for money.
Yeah, sometimes obviously it's like depends case on case.
Yeah. What's your brand's URL, by the way, so folks listening can take a look?
It's Equal, EQYL, Equal Activewear.
Equal.com?
Equalactivewear.com.
equal activewear.com. Equal EQYL activewear.com, folks. Okay, good. So my experience, what little there is, because I'm a micro influencer on TikTok. I think I've got 17 followers now, 10 of which are my kids' friends. You and I chatted about a friend of mine, minimally _ her on Instagram, and her audience is growing pretty consistently. She might be at 25 or 30,000 now. And she's, she doesn't have connections to other influencers. So she really doesn't know how to charge for the promotions that she gives. She gets free products, and she also gets paid by a couple of consistent brands that ask her to promote it. So she does get paid a little bit when she's not, just doing it for free products. And her goal is obviously to make money doing it.
Yeah.
Hers is, not necessarily everybody's. So like, what is the sort of minimum size audience do you feel that an influencer should have to even call them an influencer?
So I think ideal like 10,000 followers or more. So
okay.
You can get away with, and you can actually generate sales. Like one of the ways kind of like to get this like initial traction is, and I'll share kind of the templates that we have used as well in the document. You can basically enroll people to be your, okay, so this is our brand and we stand for this, and do you want to kind of like participate? So that's how you start the conversation. Then people say yes. If people say yes, you're kind of giving them more details that to become like I called it brand ambassador, right? To become like a brand ambassador, you have to actually make a purchase. So you pretty much kind of like oftentimes have to guide them through the checkout process. Okay, which product do you like? Which color do you like? Let me get it for you. Okay, so cool. Here is, you can complete the checkout and I'll enroll you into like brand ambassador program. And after that, you can promote these products and get a kickback from every sale that comes in.
That's what I wanted to get to that point. So thank you. See, this young lady doesn't get paid for sales that she generates on her Instagram account. She just gets paid a flat fee to model the clothing and things of that nature. I love the brand ambassador type of program where people are getting paid a fee or a percentage of the sale, percentage of the revenue, and they can just log on to the app that you talked about when we chatted prior to recording to see what kind of revenue their clicks or revenues they've produced. Let's talk about that. So folks that are out there listening, what platforms do you use or recommend to have people understand and follow? It looks like Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, Bassador.
Yeah.
So BUZZBASSADOR, buzzbassador.com. So that's a plugin that goes into your website. The back end allows influencers to track their sales. Is that what it is?
Exactly. So that's one. I'll send you another one here. It's called Go Af Pro. So both of them are good. I would probably recommend Buzzbassador just because it's functionality. But the second one also cool. So pretty much how it works is customers go to the page where these potential like brand ambassadors, they go to the page where they can sign up as brand ambassadors, and then they have like a particular like codes or links that they can share with their audience. So if anyone is buying through that link, then they get a kickback from that purchase. Usually it's like 15%. That's like industry standard. You can go as high as 20 depending on your margins. But then kind of like if you acquire these customers, the way I think about it, it's always like CPA, how much it actually costs you to acquire that like ambassador.
15% is great. 20% is great. That's, if your ad cost is that's fantastic. And the beautiful thing about it, and I love this type of model is you're not paying that up front. It's just a percentage of the sale. So If sales drop, you're not spending the same amount of money. You're spending less. If sales climb, you're spending 15%, period. It doesn't climb to 42% in some cases if somebody totally screws up.
Yeah, we love this too. It's obviously needs to be kind of like on the, you can get like to like 10, 20, like 30, $50,000 a month in revenue, just doing this, right? Just like messaging a lot of people, having conversations with them, enrolling them as brand ambassadors. And then obviously sustaining those relationships. Let's say you have like a new model or you have like a new product, then you're just messaging everyone, hey guys, we have this like new product. If you can push it to your audiences. So just by doing this, you can get your business to, that's from our experience, to like six figures, mid six figure, like revenue wise, with little or no like paid advertising.
I like it. I like it very, very much. All right. So let's say you've done all of this. You found that supplier overseas. Let's say you start with a dropship model initially and you get some traction. At what point do you flip it to your own private label brand? And are the suppliers perfectly fine with that? Or do they actually prefer that because they're getting money up front for a certain MLQ?
Yeah. So usually suppliers are just middlemen with factories, right? As for instance, most factories are not the best in like communication.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's why we're using the supplier. They're like middlemen. Usually they get there like 15, 20% on top of like what the COGS with shipping is. Let's say if it costs them like $10, then you'd actually pay them like $12 because they, kind of to compensate for their work. So I would think about that once you have at least like 100 to 200 like orders. And if you're like serious and you can dedicate that capital, obviously it's like you cannot be like stressed over that, like, $5,000 or whatever you have to invest, because you'd have to buy some inventory, right? So let's say you have to buy like, let's say 1,000, let's say like 300 items. And let's say each item is, I don't know, $5, $7, right? So you'd have to invest in that inventory at that point if you want to, because you need to have the minimum order quantity if you want to go private label. So the custom packaging, that's usually like $1, $2 max per product, but that dramatically increases the perceived value. That would increase the customer like satisfaction. That would pretty much help you to kind of like get on that path of building like an actual brand.
Okay.
So a few hundred orders is probably where I would start thinking about it. But then obviously everyone's commitment is on different levels. Some people just like go all in and kind of like, just invest everything they can. Other people kind of like more cautious and they just want, okay, if this works, maybe I can accumulate more capital doing just like sending people like product in a like standard packaging, and I can get away with it, and I can accumulate some capital, and only then I can invest back and reinvest back into this business.
Okay. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about time. Two different times, meaning how long it takes to get this, typically up and running where I'm making money, and then how many hours a week people have to put into it. But before we answer those questions, I'm going to take a brief commercial break, folks. Read live here and made up along the way for a free digital version of the Exitpreneurs Playbook. If you own an online business and you don't understand how to calculate the value of that business properly, you don't understand or know what all 18 different ad backs are that we talk about in the book, or what the 4 pillars are, or what I call the 4-pillar tilt, meaning, yes, you know what the 4 pillars are, but if you're weak in one area, it's going to tilt your valuation to the lower side. All of these things and everything I've learned over the last decade through selling $500 million of online businesses through the team at Quiet Light is in the book. It's in the Exitpreneurs Playbook. And my objective and goal over the next 12 months is to give away 10,000 digital versions of the book. If you want a paperback, if you want the Audible, if you want the hardcover, you can just go to Amazon and buy it. If you want the free digital version of it, the Kindle version of it, essentially, you can download it by going to exitpreneur.io/QL pod and fill out the form. Do it on your mobile device, and then you can save it to your Kindle, your iBook, your Nook, whatever it might be that you like best. And it will help you understand the true value of your online business and make sure you get maximum value when you do eventually exit. Okay, back to the question, Alex. The question is, how much time should somebody dedicate each week to bootstrapping a dropship business with influencer marketing?
I think 20 hours a week.
10 to 20 hours. Okay.
Yeah, like most, so we have like a community of e-commerce like entrepreneurs. Most of them, like now they're operating like 7-8 figure businesses, but most of them started like while they're working like 9 to 5 jobs, and they just started this like on the side. It's mostly like, it's the most kind of like common thread between all of them, that they started it this way, kind of like part-time, and then it starts to show some traction, and then they kind of like start to dedicate a little bit more time into it, and then at some point the amount of income that they're making from that surpasses their like 9 to 5, or they have sufficient amount of savings, and if they feel good about that business and they just want to like fully commit. Some of them just like, all right, they're cutting their commitments with their like 9 to 5 and just dedicating to it full time. So whichever like risk of kind of like risk appetite, the listeners have and ready to commit to, I think that would depend. I cannot tell like someone like quit their job and like start e-commerce business.
Yeah, no, everybody's going to be a little bit different there. What are you seeing from, the average person or client that you work with from the time they go, okay, yeah, let's do this, to the time that they're actually profitable? We talking weeks, we talking months? What's the typical average time? I'm not talking about the exceptions or the bad cases, just the average.
Average, I would say like 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've invested if they're just doing drop shipping, they've invested less, let's say 2,500. If they're doing, the specialty packaging and things of that nature, and going to go private label eventually, $5,000 to start with. And so they're going to earn that money back and break even in 3 to 6 months, and then start to be profitable after that, you think?
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's considering person is committed, right? Because there will be some, like, let's say you're messaging hundreds of influencers and like no one responds. That could happen, and that probably will happen, right? So I'll be just ready for that. Okay, so what do you have to do? You have to adjust your messaging. You have to adjust maybe the website, make it like more like appealing. Maybe you're like, if you're doing outreach on Instagram, maybe making your page more appealing, seeing other successful brands. So it is like a learning curve, like everything else, like, selling a business, it's a learning curve. A lot of people don't even know their businesses have value. So that's why they need a book. So it's a learning curve. From my perspective, it just like, if you just dedicate to it and you just like, okay, I would probably even probably not set like very high expectations. I would expect that it will be like rejection from day one, because if you have like extremely high expectations, it's like I started and like tomorrow I'll become like a millionaire, then it will be kind of like more difficult to deal with like setbacks, because you have to consider that, it is a great opportunity, and you can build something that can be worth like 5, 10, 20, $50 million in like 5, 10, 20 years of time. But initially, to get that traction, I mean, you're in the same level, like playing field with like hundreds and thousands of other brands.
Yeah, you got to set your expectations. It's people to get famous overnight or rich overnight, in our eyes, is never overnight in their eyes.
I hope people not drop off after I say this. Like, no.
No, look, I think no, right? I don't think they will. I think it's people understand that this type of stuff is hard work, and it's worth it when you stick to it, and you've got a successful brand, a successful business that eventually you can exit someday. It doesn't come easy, and you can't just make it happen in 30 days.
100%. And also one of the things that it kind of like gets better over time, right? Because let's say you do this outreach, right? And you're getting a lot of these influencers, and maybe like after some time you have some some more capital, some more like brand equity, so you can reach out to bigger influencers. And then once you get bigger ones, then you can leverage their names to attract smaller ones.
Sure.
Because like smaller influencers, they want to do like what's cool, right? Like, oh, okay, so this product is being promoted by these influencers, and probably it's cool. Oh, if Joe Rogan is promoting something, then it's probably a cool product, and I want to be associated with something that Joe Rogan is associated with.
Yeah.
So it gets better over time. It's just that initial kind of like traction. This is where you have to kind of like disattach yourself from the outcome and just like try to learn, try to see what kind of like messages people respond to. Okay, so what are the main objections? Okay, so people want to like, we convert people. For instance, that's one like good hack. So we convert people that people say, we're reaching out to them and they say, oh, I want to get like, I'm usually getting paid like $500 or $1,000 per post. Okay, cool. So instead of like just like giving up, we're saying, okay, cool. We're cool with that. But we just would like to start with something like smaller. Would you be able to do like reels for us with our product? So reels, it's type of content on Instagram that has very high reach compared to posts, higher, because Instagram is trying to compete with TikTok, and TikTok is taking the market share. So now Instagram is giving like reels a lot of reach because they want more consumption. They want people to stay on the platform. So reels is something that can get you like a lot of organic like traction.
Yeah, I'll address that too, because my social media VAs just started doing Instagram reels, Alex, and it's funny. She didn't do them before because she didn't have a mobile phone. Apparently, you've got to have a mobile device to do it. But we went from 30 or 40 views to 3,000 views.
Wow!
In instantly, really, by using reels. Yeah, or impressions, I should say, impressions.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that is like, that is a good way, kind of, you can negotiate. Okay, so we want to pay you like $500,000 per post, but let's start with something smaller. Let us pay you for like, let's say 1 hour of time. How many reels you think you can create for us during that time? So let's say they say like 3 reels. So now it's like you're paying $30 per reel that can get like thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of views. And you kind of like negotiated that. And then once you see that influencer actually bringing you sales, now it could be a different conversation. But this way you have actually validated the influencer, and kind of like, because sometimes what you will find with influencers, that's also another like kind of considerations, that like logically you think the bigger the influencer, usually the more sale they should bring. But there is no direct correlation. For example, we've had sometimes more sales from like influencers with like 10, 15,000 followers than from influencers with 150,000 followers, which doesn't make any sense, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, so it's the quality of the audience. And it's kind of interesting. I think people's first thought is, like you said, I think testing it, let's pay you for an hour of your time, do 3 reels, $30 each. It costs you $90 versus $500 to $1,000. And then you see if they work or not.
Yeah.
And people's instinct initially might be, okay, well, I'm going to just pay them that $500 for more posts versus doing the ambassador program. I think the Buzz Ambassador program, even if it's going to cost you more in the long run, you're going to get more posts and better posts because they're going to be excited because they're earning 15% of all revenue that they generate. Which do you push in that situation? Do you go for the flat fee or the Buzz Ambassador program?
I don't like flat fees. Maybe it's just a level of brands. Some of my friends are running brands that are doing like 200 million in revenue, and they're just paying like brands on the and influencers on the retainers. Here's like $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and they have specific amount of content that they have to produce. These are bigger influencers with millions of followers. We are not at that stage yet where we can just like, hey, here's your $5,000, and just like we just expect 4 posts and 4 stories in a given month. So that's why I prefer kind of like more like bootstrapped way, where it's either they become ambassadors by actually buying. So this way we just like break even on that first like transaction, and then they also post because they want to earn like the extra commission. Or we just like negotiate and pay them for like very specific content, let's say like reels, like several reels, or we're just sending them free product and they share it with their audience.
Okay.
This way your whole cost is obviously the outreach, that time of the VA or someone on the team or yours, and the COGS, actual product cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Shipping and product cost. So let's talk about how to find these influencers as we wrap up this podcast. Are there tools and services and apps and websites out there to find the influencers, or do you just grind it out and look for them on Instagram and TikTok?
Initially, I would just do it manually. And I would just like initially, if you're just starting out, I would really try to understand it. I would just really try to kind of like go to different pages, observe the engagement on different ones, go to different, see how other brands are promoting themselves. So kind of like try to learn as much as possible. And this outreach initially can be done in a manual way. There are tools like Grin, so Grin, Grin. So this tool here, it's not cheap. It's like usually these tools are like $3,000-$5,000 a year with annual long contract. So probably initially you don't want to be using anything like that, but through their platform you kind of like you can do the emailing, you can do the outreach, you can manage the whole like influencer marketing program. Initially, just a spreadsheet, so you go on Instagram, you go to your competitors or the brands in your niche that you want to sell to, and you can just reach out to the same influencers that are promoting other brands. And you can find those influencers if you go to any like Instagram page, there is this tab that is called tagged. So you have posts, you have reels, you have videos, and you have tagged.
Okay.
If you go to tagged, this is where you will see actual people that have tagged this brand in their feed, and those are the people that you can start reaching out to. Because if they're promoting other products, then they're familiar with this kind of like whole model, and they're like kind of like they know how to collaborate with brands. The only disadvantage of this approach would be that if they're promoting, let's say, 10 other brands, 20 other brands, their audience is not that receptive to like, let's say you work with them and they're like, oh, here's another brand I like, they send them like, you send them like a free product. So the response rates on that probably won't be that high, but you will still generate sales. On the other side, you can go kind of like more, you can search influencers by the hashtag. So let's say hashtag like beauty, or hashtag like running, or hashtag gardening, whatever that is. And that's another way where you can find kind of like less saturated influencers that don't promote like too many brands, because the more brands influencer is promoting, and if they're promoting like daily something, then that's response. Like we've had influencers with like 500,000 followers, and then they're promoting us, and it seems like their audience is big and amazing and engagement is high, but the audience is simply not buying. Like there are only like few sales that they generate because they're promoting something like 5 times a day. Okay. It's like, oh, this is the water. Oh, this is cool water. Oh, this is sunglasses. Oh, this is like smoothie from this bar. Oh, this is like a book. This is
they're not even related to each other the way you do it. Like
they just like, these brands just sending them free products or paying them, and they just like, they're like promotion vehicle. Mm-hmm. So I think kind of like being like data driven in this and removing that emotional attachment, and also not being dependent. Oh, if I only get this influencer, I mean, there are thousands of them. If you don't get this one, there's like hundreds of other ones that you can get. So kind of being data driven and disattached from the kind of outcome. I think that's
emotionally detached. Yeah, makes total sense. All right, listen, Alex, we are running out of time, but I want people to be able to reach out to you directly because this is what you do. And if they want to go it on their own, they can. But if they want to get some expert help behind it, how would they reach out to you and connect with you?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube. It's Alex Fedotoff. So I have a YouTube channel. I'm shooting like tutorials and sharing kind of like what's working. So people can check it out.
Fedotoff is spelled Fedotoff.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'll share a link in the show notes. Okay. How else will they find you?
And also, we have a website. It's called E-commerce Scaling Secrets. This is for our like kind of like community, for a mentorship program where pretty much, we are connected with other like entrepreneurs. We're all like learning together, growing together. We have also the community of like we have like coaches that helping students out. These are like our media buyers. So actually, what we are doing in our business, what we're practicing, like on a day-to-day basis, that's what we are sharing, because the industry is changing all the time, and also we are learning from. Sometimes we get these like crazy like 20-year-old like very successful entrepreneurs joining us, and we're learning from them, as much as they learn from us. So kind of like the community, the mastermind that we're learning from each other.
Well, that's great stuff. Great stuff. This has been fascinating, Alex, giving people the opportunity to start small, scaling, and grow it, and eventually flip it over to the private label model. Appreciate it. And I think the education on the influencer marketing stuff is just fantastic. So folks, check out the show notes. All of the links that we've talked about today, you can find them in the show notes, or you could just do a search for Alex. That's Alex Fedotoff, Fedotoff, and check out his YouTube channel and other things there as well. Alex, thanks so much for joining us on the Quiet Life podcast today. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully, guys, you got some value out of it. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You bet.